Welcome to Fresh Tech Tips. I am Derrell, Norris, CEO of Fresh Tech Tips. And today we have some amazing gentlemen with me today.
What's up, Darrell? I'm Nicholas and Basil Daniel, founder of Aegis Project Management LLC.
And I am Dr. Doug Franklin, co-founder and CEO of Deck Launch LLC. How are you guys doing today?
I'm feeling great, man. It's another wonderful Monday. What about you?
And another beautiful day, man. Can't complain. How about you, Doug?
Anytime I can wake up in the morning and it's hoodie season, I love it.
I guess that's the only way you can love it. If you don't wake up, you can't love it. So,
amen to that. Amen to that.
So today's Fresh Tech Tip topic is pitching perfection. So we talk about executing your elevator pitch with excellence all the way back in episode 10, but we haven't gone into depth too much about pitch competition. So Nick, can you give us one of those world famous Nicholas definitions of what is a pitch competition?
Yeah, so a pitch competition is one where contestants have limited time to present their business idea in detail. Definitely always utilizing a pitch deck as the presentation. And we have already defined pitch decks in detail. So if you're watching this show, you should know what a pitch deck is. If you don't, look at the replay last week to get caught up. In front of an audience, set of judges or investors or a combination of all three. The goal here is to get some kind of resource, and usually is money, seed investment, but it can be more than that. It can be partnerships, strategic partnerships, mentorship, whatever is going to help you, take your business to that next level. That's what you're looking to get as a contestant in a pitch competition.
Yeah, so one of the things that sometimes we lose track of, and Nick said it the best, is just the nature of exposure and opportunity. A lot of times when we think about pitch competitions, we're thinking about, well, is this a $5,000 pitch competition? Is this a $10,000, $100,000 pitch competition I'm entering? And yes, the money is always worth it. But what happens if you don't win 100%? A lot of these pitch competitions have investors there that are waiting for second and third and fourth place to give opportunities. And just like Nick said, you can definitely find team members. And if you don't believe it, check out, if you guys watch Shark Tank, look and see how some of the people who didn't take investments from the shark are doing. There's a couple of really, really cool businesses that have gone on the show and didn't necessarily take the money, but they got the exposure. All pitch competitions are the same thing for you.
Definitely. And that's a lot of things that people don't understand, that, you're there for, obviously, to win the big money. But the people that are in the room are the hidden gems that people don't tend to forget about. So
that's a great point.
So we're talking about these great pitch competitions. So how do you win? We're going to give you guys three steps or three items on how we're going to win these pitch competitions. So the number one thing is obviously preparation. So you have to prepare. And we can talk about all of these pitch competitions have different entry points. Most of them require a pitch deck. Shout out to Deck Launch.
Yeah, sure.
So we want to make sure that your pitch deck is meeting all of the expectations for that specific pitch competition. Because the different competitions can have different rules. You can have a 10 slide minimum, a time minimum, 5 minute minimum, 10-minute minimum. Are there going to be question Q&A at the end? So we need to know all of the elements about this pitch competition before we just try to jump in and win it. And Doc, I'm sure you can expand on that.
Yeah, so one of the things that I always try to recommend to people is find out as many expectations about the pitch competition, because yes, there's judges that you have to impress, but generally the judges don't work with that specific business. or if they do, they have a set of guidelines that they tend to evaluate everybody with. So some of it may be profitability. Some of those things maybe, do you have the team? Some, it might just be straight up. Have you shown them the 5 specific slides in the resolution that you need in order to in order to go forward? But all of these things end up aligning. So the best thing for you to do, get on their website, see what they have. If they don't have any of their resources, Google search and see if you can find the scoring rubric for judges for last year's event. Sometimes those things are floating around on the internet as resources. So you just never know. But that's one of the very important things. Just prepare, know what you're getting into, and then jump into it.
And that's such a great point, because when you first start talking about preparation, I know you immediately think about the rules and having all the stuff that you need to do as far as your pitch, and all that stuff is extremely important as a baseline. You got to have that, but that next step of preparation is kind of learn the room a little bit. Maybe targeting 2 or 3 judges that okay, they have more knowledge in my business, so if I can impress 2 or 3 of them, that's going to get me the outcome that I want, because it's probably better and easier to do that than to please everybody in the room. And then also, the first thing that we mentioned is exposure. It's more than just the judges. So if you know the kind of crowd that's going to be there, that's also something you can take advantage of as well. The only way to do that is through preparation. It's going to be too late if you're in the moment, you're just focusing on your pitch. It's too late then to start seeing who's in the room and whatnot. So that's just such an awesome point, Doug.
Yeah, so let's talk about the pitch deck. We've had several times where we've seen a beautiful pitch deck, and then we get to the competition and it's completely different. Then
format's messed up. You can't pull it up. Oh man.
Right. So Doc, let's talk about formatting and how to avoid that.
So the best thing for you to do, even if you're going away from your brand guidelines, I know I have some heavy marketing friends out there to watch us, but in your pitch deck, if you know that you have a really sexy, awesome font that does not exist anywhere, there's 2 ways you can take care of it. Either you need to present for PDF, or if you're using PowerPoint, you need to use some of the very generic generic fonts like Arial, Helvetica, Montserrat. Some of those things as soon as you take your computer from a Mac to a PC, or a new PC to a PC that has 1997 Word on it, then you will be able to it'll translate better across the board. So you need to do that. And then beyond just the technical things in translation, we have a couple of our favorite, what grinds our gears about pitch decks that we see either when we're working on them or judging pitch competitions. So I'd love to, since Rel asked all the questions, Rel, tell us a little bit about what grinds your gears about a pitch deck that you just don't want to see.
We love serving this up.
I don't like ugly decks, man. I don't like ugly decks. Man, I hate them. I mean, and I know that's a general statement, but I mean, you should know if something is ugly or not. You should know if something is sticky or not. Something that's deck line
visually digestible, I think, is what he's trying to say.
Yes. You can have the best idea in the world, and if I can't get past this ugliness, I'm not even looking at your ideas. It's probably bad. But I'm just saying, that's how I am. I like things that look nice. So if you're struggling with that, hire somebody. If you want the best, hire Deck Launch.
Yeah, and quick plug. If you're still having some issues that on the most serious, if you guys don't know where to turn and you need a starting point for your pitch deck, we do pitch deck 101 monthly with the Ion. I think you can find it on Eventbrite. Attend one of those classes. It'll give you a basis, at least so you know what you don't know, and then that'll help you move to the next step, and then we can work together to get you those decks that are not ugly.
No ugly slides, yeah. No ugly slides.
No ugly slides whatsoever. One of the things that I would say, since Rel just talked about ugly, I like to talk about content. The last so having too many slides is one terrible thing. Having too much information on a slide is also just as bad. We've been blessed that judges have been able to turn their cameras off during Zoom competitions. But pre-COVID, I literally saw the judges after they saw basically a dissertation on one slide, tune
Oh
out
my God.
and start texting in their phones at a rather large pitch competition, and it was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever seen in my life. We tell you guys, use icons, big percentages, and just make sure you use X amount of time for that slide. Don't write it. Please don't write you don't need an essay. I promise.
This leads into practice, which is our next point, because that's how you're going to know if it's too much. If you're not sure, when you practice and you run through it, so most competitions are going to have, a time limit so everybody can go, you can get the questions, and, lots of times you want to give your investors or the judges enough time to ask questions, because that's really what's different. You're always going to have your pitch deck, but what's different now is that you have somebody to ask you questions or whatnot. So that's the most important part. So if you run through doing your practice and you run through your pitch deck and you time yourself, and it's 20 minutes or 50% higher than the time limit that they set for you, that's your target, then you have too much. That's going to be a sign that I need to trim down on some places. Or if you trim down and there's no way you can trim down anymore, then you got to have a plan for how you're going to get your information across, the key points in the time that you have allotted.
Yeah, and I say this all the time. I know they say practice makes perfect, but I always say once you do have it perfect, you still need to do about 5 runs at least. Because once you think you have it perfect, it's only going to get better from there. You're only going to get more comfortable. You're only going to learn more about your business every time you practice the pitch. And so I stress this all the time: practice, practice, practice. Even if you think you have it perfect, keep practicing. Because I guarantee something is going to change. You're going to realize something. It's going to be better. So just practice as much as you can. Try to practice more than the competition is going to practice.
Yeah, and so the thing that I always tell people, especially when I'm coaching them for pitches, is like, go and look for questions that you think the judges are going to answer. So most of the time in a pitch competition, they'll give the judges a question or two piece to ask you about your business or something they saw in the slides. So how do you avoid not knowing the answer? You go look for the questions. When you find the questions, write down the answer to some of them that you think they're going to ask, because you should be able, if you did your preparation, parallel, another P. This is like pitch perfect P alliteration day to day. But when you have that information, go back to see what the expectations are for that pitch competition. You might know pretty much of what they're going to ask, but then what happens if you have a judge who just wants to see if they can be the one who asks you the curveball question that has absolutely nothing to do with the business, and you don't want to say, and you're not sure if you should say, I don't know. You don't have to lie in the question and make something up on the spot. But with conviction, you can just say, that's a good question. I'll follow up with you. And that's one of the things that we always tell everybody to do. Yes, you should be able to follow up with most of the judges if you can help it, because you should be able to get either the email to the competition or the email to the person if you ask for their business cards, so on and so forth.
Yeah, you should follow up with all the judges anyway, regardless.
You should always follow up, because maybe one of those judges didn't have enough time to talk to you, but has $10,000 in their pocket to get your marketing popping. You just don't know. You should ask.
Yeah, and curveball judge is definitely going to remember you when you follow up with them if they're genuine about their question. So it's a good win-win situation there.
So next up, performance. Let's talk about performance. The number one thing that something that we always stress about everything we do at Fresh Tech and Deck Lounge is dressing the part. We can't be Fresh Tech and not be fresh. So just the part based on the tone of the competition in your brand. If you're a rapper, you don't need to wear a suit.
Right.
If you're a chef, you don't need to wear a suit.
Right. I'm opening a food truck, no suit, no need. Where's the T-shirt with the brand on it?
Just make it make sense. And Nick is the fashionable one out of all of us. So I'm gonna let you speak.
Really? I think Derrell has all kinds of suits on there, but I think it's more so you can connect and be comfortable with the people that you're around. We mentioned your brand, and at the end of the day, you're selling yourself. So just think of yourself as a package. All the things that we're talking about tone. We're talking about your delivery. You're trying to sell yourself. They have to buy into you first. So you don't want your clothing to be what sours the relationship or what ruins a first impression for you. And that could go both ways. Now, I mean, if you're overdressed, is likely not to hurt you as much as being underdressed. But I mean, you want to be perfectly dressed for the occasion, so you make everybody feel comfortable around you. If you're in a 3-piece suit and everybody, your judges are all casual, it's probably you're not going to connect with them the way that you want to. So you got to think about that. And then performance-wise, we already talked about tech. Nothing just ruins everything more than something not working. It's just everybody feels awkward. It's nervous. And then when you get it right, it just takes a while for you to even get back in. They're ready for the next person. So you just want to have as little malfunction as possible, with your clothing, with your tech, with your wording, just everything. You want it to go smoothly so that your message is unencumbered being delivered to these judges. And then smile and be comfortable. If you can get to a point where you forget that you're pitching, because if you're talking about your business, this is your baby, you're passionate about it, you hear one of us talk about ideas, at some point you kind of leave that pitching mode and you start just really expressing your passion, and that's what people are going to feel. So you want to get to that phase. And then answering your questions with conviction. If you don't, worst case scenario, you're not going to know something, you get back to going research, and you should know everything else because you practiced, you prepared your pitch deck, Deck Launch helped you out. So you're ready to go, be confident.
Yeah, and conviction also goes with when you're presenting, because it's easy to make a mistake. Even if you've done a presentation 100 times, maybe you're on a slide where you say the wrong number. And if you realize you said the wrong number, you can say, "Excuse me, blah 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 blah," or you just keep on motoring right through it. And if you could do that, even if you know there's a mistake, and continue to speak with conviction and go, the judges may ask you the question later if it's something really important. Otherwise, you sound like you know what you're talking about, which you do, because it's your business. It's your business idea. You are the person with the plan, and the judges may have experience, but they don't know exactly your vision as the leader of your business idea. They will never have that same that same outlook that you'll have. So don't worry about it.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Sure.
Can I ask you guys a question before we wrap up here? What do you do when you disagree with a judge? How do you handle that?
So it's happened to me once. So I guess so. So the only thing that I did is I kindly gave a counterpoint, and that's probably the best way to do it. It wasn't to get flustered, because judges are going to sometimes say what they want, and so I provided a counterpoint. When he said he disagreed, I said thank you for your opinion, and that's really about it. If you don't even want to get into it, and you know that generally when you have those types of interactions with people, you may just have to say thank you for your perspective, judge, and just keep it going. That's not a bad thing at all to just kind of deflect.
I'm so glad Doc answered that question.
I really wanted you to answer it.
I know he did.
I mean,
No.
but yeah, don't take offense to it because it's a vulnerable position to be in when you're pitching to these people. So, what were you gonna say, Russ?
I wasn't gonna say anything.
Oh, okay.
Nothing at all. I was gonna wrap up the show. And on that note, thank you all for joining Fresh Tech Tips. We are here every Monday at 12-ish. I think we were pretty good today. Last week, 2 weeks ago, we wasn't. But please join us every Monday, 12 o'clock on Facebook Live. Please check us out on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google, SoundCloud, all of that great stuff. We're on there at Fresh Tech Tips. Please join the Facebook group, Fresh Tech Tips, with the Z, of course. And we just want to thank you guys for your time. We know how valuable it is, and we hope you got some value from this. So when it comes to pitching, just remember to prep, practice, and perform great to have your pitch to perfection. See you guys next week. Thanks for going in Fresh Tech Tips.